Vaguely, Scientology seems to quite happily move people around jobs or chuck them in the RPF. What happens when work needs to be done, but their members, who are builders, electricians, computer programmers, or whatever other skilled people, are all shifted to other positions or thrown in the RPF? Do they expect completely unskilled replacements from elsewhere in the Sea Org to take over to do complex technical or dangerous tasks with no training? Would they shove qualified electricians into PR or management roles where they would not be suitable either? Basically, the answer to your question is yes, they would. But they're not all complete idiots about it. However, I'm going to go over a couple of Sea Org policies with you that'll I want to give you exactly how L. Ron Hubbard talks to Sea Org members on this so that you'll understand what they're indoctrinated with in terms of an attitude about how you do your job and how you learn how to do your job and what you should and shouldn't know coming into the Sea Org, because it is a high demand, high control environment. And that means that expectations are high. You are not being given a lot of excuses or reasons why you can't do something. You are expected to get things done. The attitude is, you're here, you're a Scientologist, now we'd rather have you dead than incapable, right? This kind of thing. This is right out of basic policies that all Sea Org members read, like Keeping Scientology Working is the name of one of them. But there are also Sea Org specific issues that go even more hardcore on this. So I pulled those up. But I wanted to also remind you that even words like reasonable are redefined in Scientology as bad words. As you know, it's not okay to be reasonable. Really, like, the mindset is a different mindset. So let me these are the ways that it's different, is that reasons or justifications or excuses why you can't get something done are simply unacceptable. If you're given a task in the Sea Org, it is expected that you are going to get it done. And if you can't get it done, you are to figure out how to get it done without making a big problem out of it. That is pretty uniform across the, sort of across the Sea Org. Now, the unreasonableness comes into this in that sometimes people really do not have a clue how to do something. And it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Now, when it comes to very specialized stuff, like, laying some concrete or doing some, intense electrical work or something, it's not like some senior who knows how to do that or understands that process is going to give that job to somebody who's never done it before and expect them to just figure it out. I mean, generally, there is an effort made at what's called hatting or, indoctrination training, figuring out, showing people how to do the work that they need to do. But it's minimal, right? It's really minimal. And OSHA standards, for example, when it comes to compliance with law and with the operational safety hazard, whatever OSHA, I think that's what that stands for. Anyway, safety rules on the job and, in construction areas or industrial areas. Scientology doesn't really care too much about that. However, they also, the conflict there, of course, is they do want to take care of the Sea Org members, but there's also this whole idea that if you screw up, have an accident, hurt yourself, hurt other people, it's because you're PTS. It's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's not because you weren't trained on it. It's because you are somehow connected to some suppressive or had some suppressive restimulation or something. So it's not like this all makes a whole lot of sense, okay? But it is a different mindset. So let me give you the Hubbard on this, and then I think you'll understand the answer to your question. Because I think by giving you this, I'll give you a more, here's the attitude about it, here's how it is in Scientology, and then, you can kind of see how this might work. On the 5th of June, 1968, L. Ron Hubbard wrote The Winning Attitude. This was a flag order, 833. All Sea Org members are considered to be able to do any job and perform the total actions of his or her post. You all have been around for a long time, and nothing you have to learn is totally new. Quote unquote stupidity or quote unquote being new are not excuses for not doing your job. Any Sea Org officer or in charge not expecting the full performance out of his personnel is a danger to the Sea Org. Any Sea Org officer not allowing a person under him or her to learn or perform totally the functions of his post or assuming that he can't is a liability to the Sea Org. This attitude of, well, he really can't do that because he's new or he doesn't know yet is canceled. The winning attitude is you know it. Now, with no ifs, ands, or buts. I do my job. I'm expected to do it right the first time. I do. I expect no less of you. L. Ron Hubbard. All right, and then we can also go to something that I have mentioned many times before, and I won't read the whole issue, but I am going to read some snippets here because this is also going to get this across. And this was August 1967. And 1967 is the year the Sea Org started, and it was the year that Hubbard became a real taskmaster in a way that had not become apparent before. This is called the Supreme Test. It starts, all capital letters, the supreme test of a Thetan is his ability to make things go right. This, of course, is a rather savage and brutal datum, for it thrusts aside all justification, reasonableness, excuses, and even does not take into account the size or obstacles of the opposition. But please note that the datum is not, are things all right around him, as this is a passive test and could mean only that he was simply sitting still. Whether things are currently all right or not is beside the point. The Thetan who is making things go right may be tackling a mountain of confusion, and of course things are not all right, because what he is attacking is mainly wrong. It is whether or not he is making things go right in spite of hell or high water that is the test. Okay, this is used constantly in Scientology. This is not a Sea Org only issue. This is a bulletin. Any Scientologist can look this up and see it, and is often referred to or used to as a sort of bootstrapper or, hey, let's get going, pick yourself up and let's get to it, right? Now, Hubbard also defines in here, one might also ask, what is meant by right? This would be forwarding a purpose not destructive to the majority of the dynamics. All right, this is where we get into the utilitarian ethics of Scientology. The greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics is the computation you're supposed to use or the calculus you use to decide whether something you're doing is a good thing or a bad thing. Is it most productive or constructive or helpful? Does it do deliver the greatest good to the greatest number of life units across the dynamics? And dynamics are a Scientology term, but basically it means over the areas or spheres of life. So Hubbard then goes into talking about how sanity is crookedness and how a sane person thinks, looks, and sees in straight lines. Black is black, white is white. The aberrated person looks toward black and wanders off in his gaze to something else and makes the error of saying it is gray. Hubbard is really pushing some interesting things in this issue. That's why I wanted to read a little bit of it to you. Black and white thinking is one of them. He actually, literally, I just read to you how Hubbard says black and white thinking is a plus. It's a feature. It's a bonus. It's what you should be doing. It's a reflection of sanity to be a black and white thinker. It is also this whole utilitarian ethics system that Hubbard adopted and pushes here with this business of making things go right is all about the end justifying the means. If you're on a right path, if you have a purpose that is a good purpose as you see it, then make it go right. Do anything necessary in order to make that purpose manifest. Okay, so these are some things that are here in these issues if you read between the lines or, dig into what is Hubbard actually saying here. And these attitudes, of course, are part of our cultic checklist of things that can be turned into very, very abusive philosophies or very, very abusive ways of acting or thinking or pushing people. So with your now having given all of that, right, getting back to your question here, let me say that people in the Sea Org are expected to get any job done that they are assigned at any time of the day or night or any time of the year, right? And if it is truly a technical job that is acknowledged that, you're going to need to know some things, no one is ever going to be given the job, go wire that building, right? And they have no idea. They've never picked up a wire before. They don't know anything about electricity. No one's really going to do that, okay? But this serves to, like I said, when I say it, this serves to open the door for abuses. For example, let me give you just a stupid, silly example of the kind of thing that is just given over for you to do, to figure out, and where this kind of thing manifests is there was a conference, and we had a very senior executive at this conference speaking to org staff members, and I was in management, and this was in the Sea Org. And this executive wanted a glass of orange juice. And we were out at a hotel. We weren't on the base. I didn't have any money. Nobody had any money for me. I was just supposed to go make it go right to go get this guy a glass of orange juice. And I wandered around the hotel for almost 45 minutes trying to go to the hotel cook or the hotel bar or the hotel restaurant or go up and down the street looking for a place I could find some orange juice. I had no money. But I was expected to make it go right. Just go figure it out. It's not my problem. And I was telling my senior, I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? And literally, she looked at me and said, I don't give a fuck. You go figure it out. It's not my job to do your job for you. Go. And by the way, it wasn't my job to get people orange juice. So these kind of things are the heat of the moment kind of crap that you get. And it doesn't sound like any big deal, except for the fact that I was totally stuck with that, right? And I got a lot of trouble because I couldn't figure out how to get some guy some orange juice. I mean, stupid stuff like that. But while I was on the RPF, we were trained on doing different jobs, electricians, plumbing, HVAC, and of course, working in a mill. I learned how to use a table saw and power saws and power drills and lots of lathes and scrapers and sanders and all kinds of things. And I didn't really have a whole lot of clue about most of that before I got there. So the hatting or the training you get is pretty, boom, 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 minimal amount to get the job done. And you're expected to do it at the highest quality possible. So the standards are a bit ridiculous. The demands are completely, utterly ridiculous. And the attitude is, if you're going to make, you're going to make it go right. And that's life in the Sea Org.